Miss Fannie.
Mrs. Fannie's
Hat.
Good. This is such a good story.
This is all the stuff she likes. Dun dun dun.
Those are things she likes. Babies and flowers and hats. Miss Fannie's hat. Miss Fannie had lots of hats, and each one is her favorite.
This one has a maze.
Yes, you're right.
This one.
She wears her red felt hat with the big feathers. She looks in the mirror and says, "I just love this hat." And her friends at church say, "Miss Fannie, we just love that hat." When she wears her green velour with the fancy pins, she says, "I sure do love this hat." And her Sunday school teacher says, "Miss Fannie, I sure do love that hat." But when she wears her famous pink straw hat with silk roses, she always says, "I really love this hat, and everyone else really loves it too." Miss Fannie is 99 years old and very small. In fact, she's grown to be about the same size she was as a little girl. Tobias, turn that down, please. Miss Fannie and her daughter, Miss Wanda, live together. Miss Wanda makes breakfast every morning. "Don't make me," says Miss Fannie, sitting on the sofa in her robe. Miss Wanda tries to mind because Miss Fannie is her mama, but she forgets and brings her a piece of sausage buttered toast with jelly, a scrambled egg, and a cup of herb tea. "Oh my, that's way too much," Miss Fannie always says. But then every morning after breakfast, Miss Fannie reads her Bible. She has worn out 3 Bibles, reading them over and over. Her favorite verse is, "With God, all things are possible." Every Saturday, Miss Wanda washes Miss Fannie's hair. Miss Fannie takes off her robe and stands her slip and looks very tiny. Then she gets on a stool and sticks her head in the sink and puts the shampoo on her mama's head and scrubs until it lathers up, and then she scrubs some more. "That feels good," says Miss Fannie. After she washes her mama's hair, Miss Wanda rolls it tight curls all over her head. The curlers are real hard to sleep in, but Miss Fannie doesn't care one bit. She knows that when she goes to church the next, she will look beautiful. On Sunday morning, Miss Fannie puts on a pretty dress with high-heeled shoes. She puts on earrings and necklaces and lipstick and blusher, combs out her mama's hair, which is all nice and soft and gray, like the feathers of a dove. Then finally, after all that fussing with her hair, she goes and hides it under her hat. Black hats, 2 red hats, 1 green hat, 2 white hats, 2 navy hats, 3 beige hats. That's right. 1 brown hat, a famous pink straw hat with roses, because she never wears the same one twice in a row. People full of hats, which of course she does.
These are the ones I like.
Which
a lot. I like this one a lot, and I like this one a lot.
That seems to be everyone's favorite.
This one's a lot. This one a lot. And this one a lot.
So you really like the ones with the veils, don't you?
Uh-huh.
They're very pretty. Sunday.
This one.
That's right. One Sunday, Miss Young Preacher came up to her and said, "Miss Fannie, would you kindly give us one of your beautiful hats? It will go in the auction to fix up the church in time for Easter." That same day, Miss Wanda helped her mama get out her hats and put them on the bed and the dressing table. Then Miss Fannie closed her bedroom door. "Lord," she said aloud, "I'd appreciate it if you'd help me make the best choice." She always talked to the Lord as if he was right there. Yeah, there you go. She's thinking. Miss Fannie walked around the room and looked at each one of her hats. The green velour with the fancy pin was very, very old and still very beautiful. During the terrible flood of 1916, she had crossed the swollen river on a ferry to visit her mother and father. As she stood on the rail holding onto her beautiful, almost close enough to touch.
Slowpoke.
And over there, felt with the gleaming black feather. Ha! That feather had come from the tail of a hawk that was trying to kill her, and before you could say doodly squawk, that hawk would never bother her chickens again. Then Miss Fannie picked up the hat and stroked it. It had always reminded her of Flower, her grandmother's cow. When Miss Fannie was just 7 years old, she had started milking the brown velvety soft Flower each evening, spring in a bucket and set in the icy water to keep cool. Later, her mama would pour the milk in butter just like you buy in a store, except better. She realized that each one of her hats was like a friend, and each one brought back special memories.
This one I want.
Finally, Miss Fanny came to her most favorite hat of all, the pink straw silk roses. She had worn it every Easter Sunday for 35 years, and it always made her feel brand new, like Easter itself, but she wasn't the only one who thought it was special. For her pink hat on Easter Sunday, just like they looked for the tulips and daffodils that bloom in the spring. There we go. Miss Fanny took the pink straw out of its round boxes and put it on, even though she was wearing her oldest house dress with the toy. She looked in the mirror and sighed. In her heart, she did not want to give her hat away. Not at all. She took a Bible verse. As she placed the hat back in its round box, she said, "You know, this hat really could raise a lot." As she put the lid on the box, she said, "Maybe it could help fix old pipe organ." Around the lid, she said, "Well, probably mend the crack in the church bell or new roof." Suddenly, she discovered she was very, very excited. And some young preacher held up the pink hat with roses and looked around. "What am I bid for Miss Fanny's famous hat?" The bidding took off lickety-split. At last, here was something more exciting to bid on than a set of kitchen canisters or an umbrella hat stand. Bang went "Hold the lady in the front row." The lady in the front row gave the preacher a check and seemed very, very pleased with herself. "A lot of money," exclaimed Miss Wanda, who was impressed. Miss Fanny clapped her hands. It was enough to get things fixed around here. She knew she would not miss her favorite hat one bit, but she did wonder which hat she would wear on Easter Sunday. Miss Fanny got up very on the side of her bed and took her curlers out of her hair. Although she thought and thought, she didn't have the slightest idea which. Her red felt with the great big feather was too hot, and the green velour with the fancy pin was too wintry, and there was just no use to even think about the pink straw hat, which of course. When it was time to leave for church, Miss Fanny looked beautiful.
One.
She was wearing her best dress, which was color of pale green apples. She was also wearing her best jewelry, her best gloves, and a white corsage. "It's time to go," said Miss Fanny, picking up her cane and Miss Wanda's arm. Miss Wanda could not believe her eyes. Her mamma was going out the door without wearing any hat at all. When they arrived at church, Miss Fanny couldn't believe her eyes. On either side of the freshly painted church, someone had planted beds of glory. Pink roses were also planted along the walkway under the stained glass in front of the old fence by the street. "Oh, Mama," said Miss Wanda, "it looks just like your pink hat." The handsome young preacher greeted them on the steps and gave each one, "You're pleased, Miss Fanny. You were able to patch the bell and fix the organ, and your beautiful hat made it possible to buy all these roses." As Miss Fanny laughed with they didn't see an old woman at all. What they saw was a young girl with hair as soft as the feathers of a dove. Now, when people pass the little white church, seeing a garden of dazzling pink roses, but what they're really seeing is Miss Fanny's, and it will always, always be her favorite. You like all those things too?
I love baby dolls.
The end of Miss Fanny's hat.